Hey everybody, my name is Deanna Zant and I am here to talk to you about a little comic I made called The Unspoken Complexity of Self-Care. And before we get going, I just want to say I always want to continue these conversations. And so if you want to ask me questions, if you have comments, any kind of pushback or challenge, I welcome all of it. Bring it to me. You can find me online at deannazant.com. If you're on Twitter, just hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Deanna. And yeah, let's get going. Okay, so a few years ago, I noticed that the term self-care was becoming more and more mainstream. More and more people were talking about this idea of caring for ourselves. And I got really excited about this. I was like, it was so exciting. It all went downhill from there. It became like this kind of buzzword, and I was just like, no, because it was a commodity. It became a commodity that would solve all your problems if you just bought this one thing and like maybe hashtag self-care, and maybe just take a bubble bath and you'll be fine. Maybe you could buy this $90 sustainable self-care kit. Sustainable for whom? I don't know. But it was like, this message was like, oh, you'll have the strength to face another day in this capitalist nightmare after you've had a good soak. And yeah, I was like, no, that is not what this is about. But I kind of couldn't put my finger on what was so maddening about the nuance of this. And then I started working with a new therapist a few years ago who introduced me to the framework of dialectical behavior therapy, DBT. Where are my DBT people at? I love DBT. And in one of the DBT modules is a section called distress tolerance. And part of distress tolerance, the idea is that you work on being able to manage and bring down really overwhelming or challenging emotions, so that you can kind of operate from more of a mainline kind of space rather than this like heightened, highly emotional spot. And part of distress tolerance was this idea of self-soothing. And this is a little worksheet that you can get in your DBT book with ideas for self-soothing. And this resonated so deeply with me. I just thought like, oh my gosh, yes, like that's different than self-care. Soothing yourself, taking a bubble bath, singing karaoke, whatever it may be, is different and necessary, but is different from going to the doctor, eating well, setting good boundaries. And so I started to sketch those things out as what the difference between those two things were. And that made me feel pretty happy. I enjoyed that. But then I also started thinking about kind of the default person in my head is a single mom and she's got 3 kids and she's working 2 jobs. Like, how does she engage in self-care? How does she even engage in self-soothing? Where does she find time, space, money, any of those things? And so I started thinking about and sketching out the ways that I've seen people come together to care for one another in community with one another. And so these were the ideas of community care. And the idea here is that we distribute the care, hopefully equitably, in order to create space for individuals to be able to do their self-care and their self-soothing. And that felt really good too. I liked that too. Oh, that was so nice. But then I started thinking about like, oh, these are kind of Band-Aids. Like if we actually had good healthcare, if we were able to eliminate structural barriers like racism and sexism and all kinds of stuff. If people were paid a living wage for the work that they're doing, we wouldn't be so reliant on these Band-Aids. And so I started thinking about things in the framework of structural care. And I work with a guy named Jim Hightower in Texas. He is the former Ag Commissioner of Texas, an author, all around fantastic human. And he always says, everybody does better when everybody does better. And that is the fundamental idea of structural care. All of these systems and all of these ideas of care are interdependent on one another. This isn't like a linear progression that you can, check off each box. You're playing in between all of them. You're doing harm reduction work while we're living within these current systems, and then you're doing the burn it all down work and structural overhaul work that we need to actually have a just and equitable society. And my hope is that we can all find our place in these systems and the ways that serve us individually and contribute to our own self-care, our own community care, and the structural care for the whole freaking planet. Why not? So thank you very much, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Again, hit me up with any feedback, comments, questions that you might have, deannazant.com. You can go and read this comic for free on medium.com, and you can buy print copies on Etsy. All of those links are on the website, and yeah, let's continue this conversation. Thank you so much.